So good afternoon to all of you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can we start now or should we wait? Okay, we can start. Maybe others will join. So, okay, someone has already started the recording. Okay, fine. Thank you. So, okay, let us, and I think slides are also visible to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so once again, good afternoon to all of you. And so today we are starting very, you can say, very important topic. And so basically, we are moving to the transport layer. So in the application layer, we have learned or understood the working of some of the application layer protocols. And then in the previous class, we have seen that how we can create the network application, simple network application. More on that we will do in the labs because it is a programming exercise. So that we will do in a next 3 lab sessions will be based on the socket programming only. So we will learn the various aspects of the socket programming, how to create an application using UDP sockets, TCP sockets, and different some protocols also we will implement using that. Okay, so uh, now we are moving to the transport layer. So the transport layer, we already know that's in the layered architecture of internet. It comes at a it is considered as a layer 4, right? From bottom in a TCP/IP architecture, it's a layer 4. So so we will discuss some of the today particularly today we will discuss the transport layer services. So what services transport layer provides? So the prime job of the transport layer, you can say, means how to differentiate the transport layer services from the other layer services is that transport layer extends the host to host delivery service to the process to process delivery service. So who does the host to host delivery service? Means one endpoint to another endpoint. Which layer is responsible for providing this service? Anybody? I think in the layered architecture in one of the lecture we have discussed that each layer's responsibility, right? Starting from application layer, transport layer, then network layer, data link layer, and the physical layer. What happens, what each layer does actually for achieving the communication between the two applications, right? How the two applications, when they communicate, then each layer does some specific functions and or it is responsible for doing some specific thing. So that time I think we have discussed that host to host, end to end communication, which layer does actually?
Network layer.
Yes, network layer. Right, absolutely right. So network layer does the host to host communication or end to end communication. So after that, the transport layer responsibility comes that within that host, you know that multiple applications may run. So now your packet or the data is delivered at a host. Now network layer job is over. It says, okay, fine. My job was to just deliver from to this IP address. Now within this IP address, now how many processes are running and so which application this data is need to be delivered, that is not my responsibility. So it hand over the packet to the transport layer. Now the transport layer responsibility is that to without any ambiguity, it delivers that data to the appropriate process which is running in that application. So as in the case of the multiple processes are running, then transport layer first job you can say is demultiplexing whatever the multiple communication which are coming from outside. These communications needs to be diverted to the appropriate process. So this is called as a demultiplexing service. Then the reverse of that, which is happening at a sender side, because from the sender side also there may be multiple messages are coming for the different destinations. So the transport layer's job is to multiplex all these messages which may destined for the different destinations, and then send to the network layers, and then from there the network layer's responsibility to deliver to the appropriate end host, right? So this process of at a sending side we call means multiplexing, and then the receiving side process is known as a demultiplexing. So this is one of the, you can say, very important task or functionality of the transport layer, that which we are going to discuss with respect to two services, that is connectionless and connection oriented service. So this I have talked a lot of time that okay, TCP is a connection oriented and the UDP is a connection less. But more on these protocols we will discuss in this segment only, or in this module only, in the subsequent lectures. What does it mean by the connection oriented, connection less, what is the difference, and how to design a reliable data transfer protocol. So that also we will do in that. This is a one of the one of the aspects of the reliability, that okay, the data how to deliver means intact from source to destination. Okay, so let us start. So that service wise, as I already mentioned, it provides logical communication. Transport layer provides logical communication between the application processes. So it extends the host to host delivery to the process to process delivery. Now, so to understand the difference between transport layer and network layer, already you have talked about, but let's say that. So network layer is a logical communication between the hosts, and the transport layer is a logical communication between the processes. So this means the important, you should remember this thing, that whenever if you want to know that a difference between these two layers, means this is the first, you can say, obvious difference between these two layers. So the transport layer services are constrained by the service model of underlying network layer protocol, because transport layer is basically working on top of the network layer. So whatever the network layer service it provides, it is transport layer cannot go means beyond that, right? But some of the services, certain services can be offered by the transport layer even when the network layer does not offer. And one such you can say service is, that is a reliable data transfer. Means my network layer may be unreliable. Unreliable means network layer in the network layer, maybe the packets may be lost, right? So, or maybe packets may be corrupted. So on top of such unreliable network layer, transport layer can provide the reliable data transfer by some additional complexity, right? So that we will understand in context of the TCP, that protocol, which provides a reliable service on top of unreliable network layer. So two transport layer services are there, fine. So this TCP and the UDP. Okay, so now we will understand. So before okay, going to this, let us just see to take one analogy to understand this transport layer, network layer difference, and with respect to other layers of the communication network. So I'll take one simple example, analogy. So let us say right, we have two locations, right? So one location is there in the Pilani. So let us say you are there in a one hostel, right? So that hostel may be, okay, I don't know which hostel name I should write, but okay, let us say Ram Bhavan is there. Now, so this is in Pilani, right? And then there is a hostel in the Hyderabad campus, right? And I'm not aware of the name of the hostel in Hyderabad campus. So, okay, I'm just putting some question marks here. Now here, let's say some of the there's some students are there. So these students are, let us say, sending letters. Although in the today's time, it looks very odd that okay, somebody is sending letter means physical letter through the postal service. But okay, for the time being, let's assume that okay, fine, we are sending the letters. Okay. Because in today's time we have mobile phones and so several ways of communication. Why somebody will write a letter? But okay, that analogy more fits to understand this layered model. So that's why I'm taking. So so what? So the students. So let us say one student is writing. So maybe he's using means. So this will say application messages. It is writing letter means is analogous to the application. Basically means he's using pen and paper and writing the letter on that. Okay, and then you know that this application layer communicates through the socket. So transport layer is analogous in that case is, let us say in each hostel there is a hostel representative is there. You can consider maybe hostel supri or somebody is there who is taking your letter. I'm writing here hostel representative. So the taking your letter. So like that, this hostel representative is taking letter from all the students who are writing the letter from this hostel, right? So this is work as a basically transport layer. So this is transport layer. This is application layer. You can understand, right? And then hostel representative ultimately means whatever he needs to keep track of this. If he want to keep track who sent to whom something, that he will keep it, and then he will take the services of the postal department, right? So he will use, let us say, some courier service or postal India Post service. So he will means deal with the postal department. So this postal department is basically your network layer, right? Now this is my one end host. Okay, so taking just less one person is writing. Similarly, at this side also, the means Hyderabad side also, we have a application messages, means people are writing letters to this, or maybe Hyderabad is people are writing letter to Pilani people, and Pilani people are writing to Hyderabad this hostel, right? So at a transport layer, again same thing. Here also there is a hostel representative is there, and here the postal department, that is analogous to your network layer. So same structure is there, same IP network they are using. So this is my transport layer and this is application layer. Okay, so this is one node. Now the postal department basically provides end-to-end delivery. So for that, postal department have the infrastructure, right? So this infrastructure, I can say maybe postal department is using, let us say, different transport mode. Transport mode means, don't confuse with this transport layer. Like they are using maybe buses, train, right? Or by air, using these services to transport the or to transport these letters which have been written by either side, right? So how this will be routed from one point to another point, from let us say Hyderabad to, it will go to Delhi, or Delhi to Pilani or something like that. So what route is there that will use. Now underlying that, what they are using, so this is analog, this bus, train, air, all these facilities are analogous to basically transport network layer. Now network layer is taking the services, means ultimately these buses or whatever they are using some bus or train particularly, they are using some roads or the railway track and all these things. So that is managed by some other authority. So that you can consider as an basically lower layer, that link layer and physical layer aspects, right? So this way you can understand that, okay, how the each layer responsibility is different. Particularly here our main motive is to differentiate the services of transport layer and network layer, right? So network layer job is that, okay, letter will be from here to it will reach here. Okay, once it is delivered here, the network job is over. Then basically it is so it is basically hand over this to the hostel representative. So at here hostel representative know that, okay, which person is living in which room, which hostel room is there. So you just look at room and then you deliver the message to the appropriate you can say receiver. So there is no ambiguity is there, okay, this letter is there, to whom should I give that. So means when the message it receives, this message have a appropriate information available on that. By reading that information, it can easily give to the recipient, right, without any ambiguity. So what this information is there in this case, name of that person is there and hostel room number is there, right? So at least one of the identity even in the same hostel room, maybe two students are there, then the name will be finally decide that to which recipient or which student that letter will be delivered, right? So same thing we want to do for the this digital communication or you can say the digital messages. So in that context you will understand, then it will be easy for you to understand this how this multiplexing demultiplexing happens. So now we will put our attention to this process to process delivery service, how it works. So you can see here there are three hosts are there, right? So these three hosts, so you can say at a let us see this host. So this host have two processes are running in application, P1 and P2. So let me take this one, so it will be stop. Okay. Okay. Oh no. Okay. So the application, so P1 process is there and P2 process. So P1 process and two processes are running here. Now these two processes, there is a this they are communicating to the transport layer through their socket. So this process have its own socket and this process have its own socket, right? Now, so the information, the transport layer is receiving the, you can say, data from these two sockets, right? So the transport layer's job at this sender side, you can say this is a sender, okay, because from here the data is coming. So this is a sender. So it is multiplexing both the, you can say, packets. So at a transport layer we call as a segment. So this process, or you can say this function is called as a multiplexing. So handle the data from multiple sockets and add the transport header. Now it is adding, by adding this transport header, this transport header helps at a receiver side at when it receives. So at a receiver side, this header helps to uh, deliver the received segment to the correct socket, right? So this delivering the received segment to the correct socket or the correct application, this process is called demultiplexing. So because this at this host, it is sending as well as receiving. So at the sending time, it is uh, adding the appropriate header information like uh, this in the context of that our analogy that, okay, student name or room number, that will be added. This is basically the transport layer information, because that room number and this name is not used by the postal service. postal service will look at that, okay, which state, which city, what PIN code and all. So their job is to deliver up to that last, you can say, that hostel, right? They know that, okay, hostel address, this is in this campus, this hostel is there. After that, within the hostel, okay, that is not network layer's responsibility or postal department's responsibility. They say that, okay, fine, my delivery point is that, okay, I will hand over everything to the that hostel representative, and then his responsibility to give to the individual student all these letters. This is the mechanism, right? So hope you understood this multiplexing and demultiplexing process which is happening. So right now I'm not talking about whether in TCP how it happens and UDP how it happens. Don't do. So right now we are just understanding the concept that how this, what is multiplexing, what is demultiplexing, so that the messages can be delivered without ambiguity. If the multiple processes are running, then also the messages can be delivered to the appropriate process. So it should not happen that, so in this case, let us say P1 is communicating, there is a communication happening between P1 and P3. So P1 sends something to P3, then P3 want to reply back. So these messages should go appropriately to the appropriate process at this host, right? Similarly, P2 is communicating to P4. So the P2, P4 communication is happening. So all the messages which are coming from P4 at this host, they should go to via this socket, and from this socket, this application process will read it. So the delivery of from P4 to P2 and P3 to P1 at this host, that delivery is supported, or you can say that that service is provided by this transport layer. Okay, can we move to the next? So next slide. So now means what on the what for what in basis of what information this demultiplexing at receiver happens. So host receives the IP datagram. You know that at IP layer we call the packet is named in the internet terminology. IP is a datagram. At a transport layer it is called as a segment. So each datagram has a source IP address and destination IP address. That is a network layer information, network layer control information, which is required to move the datagram from sending host to destination host. So the source city name is Pilani, destination city name is Hyderabad. So that information is required. Although for the to the postal department, other information is also required, like PIN code and some other, I mean, you can say subset of address field. But let us assume that city to city, and every city have associated PIN code also. The PIN code is easy to process basically in their internal system. Similarly here, source IP address and destination IP address is given, not the host URL is, because a host can be identified using the URL also, that we have learned in the lab, that HTTP web server, if you are accessing, you are entering the URL, and then with the help of URL, first that URL is converted into corresponding IP address using the DNS service, and then my packet start its journey from source to the destination, right? So each datagram carries one transport layer segment. This is also very important. Each datagram carries one transport layer segment. And then each segment has source and destination port number, right? So the source and destination port number is a transport layer address information, you can say, which is used by the transport layer only. Okay, network layer is not concerned about that what port number is there, source port, destination number. Port number is only for the transport layer. So you can say two fields. So source port is a 16-bit field is there. Later on we will see the complete header which is attached by the transport layer. This is just an you can say structure here. So source port information and destination port is also a 16-bit information is there. Okay, And other header fields are there. Right now we are not interested to know these other fields. Right now our aim is to just to see that what information transport layer uses to deliver the packet to deliver the segment to the appropriate socket, right? And along with other header fields, there is application data which is received, that is also there. So this is a you can say the segment structure. This is a structure of segment. It can be right now, it is not differentiated whether it is a TCP segment structure or is a UDP. It's a common, because whether it is a TCP or UDP means it's a connectionless service or the connection oriented service or reliable service or unreliable service. This information is a must for the transport layer irrespective of any protocol, source port and destination port. Right. So wherever you have any question, you can start your audio, or you can ask, okay? Because or otherwise I have to go to, yeah, I think some comment is there. Yeah, you have just answered the question. Okay, fine. So no problem. Meanwhile, I will check the chat box as well for any questions. Okay, so can we move to the next slide? Yes, this is the next slide. I am right now on the slide number 9. Okay, so now we are moving to the connectionless and the connection oriented, because there are two types of services are there. So first we will see that how this connectionless service multiplexing and demultiplexing happens for the connectionless service. Okay, so connectionless, which protocol is there? UDP, user datagram protocol. So when the host receives a UDP segment, it checks the destination port number in the segment. Destination port number is checked in the segment and directs the segment to socket with that port number. So once a segment is received at a host, destination host, then the thing it will look at, okay, which port number this what is the port number, because the port number will come in this segment. So destination port number information will be there, right? So in the segment, so it will read that destination port number and then it will direct that segment to that port number. And you know that when at the host, when any process is running, right? So this process runs, then this process is running on it. We need to associate some port number, right? And so let us say that process is some port number is there. So this port number is A, B, C, D. Right now I'm just saying, although it is a 16-bit number, so I can use any 16-bit number also, 1673. Now what I will do as an when I'm writing as an application for network application, then I will create a socket. We have learned in the previous class, we will create a socket. So for that in a Linux, I'm doing the Linux provides the library functions APIs to create a socket. Now this socket I will associate with a particular port number. Okay, and once I say this socket is attached or bind with, there is a bind system call is there. When I will bind with this port number 1673, then this process basically is now, you can say, associated with this socket. Now this socket will be used by this process to send and receive the messages, okay, for the two-way communication, right? So this you just recall. So when creating a datagram to send into UDP socket, you must specify destination IP address and the destination port number. So destination IP address will be used by the network layer and port number will be used by the which transport layer, right? Because in case of when the host may have a multiple IP addresses, right? So my socket is basically identified by the port number plus the IP address, because the So socket is identified by the port number and the IP address, because in a single machine I may have a multiple IP addresses are associated, right? So you need to uniquely identify a socket in the machine and require port number and the IP address, right? So what is important to note here, for the connectionless? Connectionless means what? Means okay, I will show you next slide, that would be better. Okay, uh, so to this is again important point, that IP datagrams with the same destination port. All the datagrams which have a same destination port. Destination port is same, irrespective of they are coming from any source IP address or any source socket port number. They will be directed to the same socket at the destination. So for the connectionless service, a segment received at the host, that segment will be directed to a particular port. So the segment will be directed based on the destination port number only. That will be based on the destination port number only by the transport layer. Okay, so this we will understand. If you have any confusion right now, then we can understand with the help of this example. So in this example, there are 3 hosts are there. So this is a server, right? This is a server. So, and these 2 are clients. Now, when the application is running at this client, so this application first a socket is created, okay, and that socket is bind with a port number, right? And once it is bind with a port number, then this process P3 is basically now connected to this port, and now P3 can use this socket. Socket is analogous to the door, like you have a application is a room, and then application you can enter into the room or you can exit from the room using the door. Although you can enter and exit from the window also, but window is not the purpose of the window is not for um, exit and entry, right? But it is possible. Anyway, this is just jokes apart. So so this is, so now means this application process is now can use this socket for transmitting or receiving the information to the data or to the transport layer. Okay. Similarly, this other client also, what it did, create a socket and bind that socket with this port number on which this process is running. So the process and socket are basically, you can say, connected. Because these 2 are 2 different machines, so this socket 5775 could be 9157 also, because uniqueness of the port number needs to be there with respect to the application, with respect to the host only. Within the host, you need to uniquely identify. So if one process is running on this 5775 on this machine, then another process cannot run on, you cannot use the same port. Otherwise ambiguity will be there, we can understand simply. So now at this server also there is process is running, and this is a corresponding port number on which this process is running. So after creating the socket is associated with the bind with the port number on which the application is running in all 3 endpoints. Clear? Okay. Now let us say this is a client, so the client is requesting to this server. So when it is requesting, here we have added only the, I have added only the 2 information, source and transport layer information. Network layer information anyway will be attached, and then only you can say your message will be travel from source to this client to server. Okay, so the source port number, it is 9157, so that's why it is 9157. Destination port number is 6428, because this is the destination port number where it is want to communicate. So it by network layer will take this from here to here. Let us say this is machine, and within that machine it will just look at the destination port number, right? So the destination port number is 6428. It say okay, 6428 is associated with this socket, so it will deliver to this socket, and then from this socket the application will receive the message. Now application, let us say this server application want to respond something to the client. So during the response, what it will do, the transport layer header, how it will change, source port will become destination port and destination will become source port, because now in the request, the what was the source port was there, now that become the destination port. Okay, that's simple, very easy to understand, and same process will happen here too. Similarly, so now this server is also you can say contacted by this client. So this client will send its request. So what will be the source port here? So first request is going. So this is a request message, I think this one, yeah. So this is a request message. So what is the source port? 5775. From where it is coming, that is a source port, and it is destined to which port? Destination 6428, and the reply which will be sent by this server, in that reply what will be the source port? 6428, and what is the destination port? 5775, right? So what is happening here? In the connectionless service, the segment which are um, directed to, or which are destined for a same port, right? They are using the receiving they are using the same through the same socket, it is delivered to the, so the port number is basically destination port number is used, port number is used to direct the segment to the to the socket. And ultimately socket mean, because to the socket that application process is associated. So from socket anyway, ultimately if we direct it to the socket, means ultimately it reaches to the application. So what I was writing, that IP datagram with the same destination port number but different source IP addresses and source port number will be directed to the same socket at the destination. So this example explain this part. So this from this this client also, the communication was sent to the destination port number 6428. This client also sent the communication or you can say message to the port number 6428. So destination port was same. So the same socket was used to deliver this to the application. Only single socket is running here, right? So in this case, what you cannot figure out that, okay, this socket, because this socket is transmitting and receiving the messages to this host 1 as well as to host 2. So individually it cannot keep track of that, okay, how many messages request I have received, and out of that how many requests have been sent from this with respect to the each host. That cannot be maintained here, because it is kind of a giving this maintaining the communication for multiple clients. So individual client statistics will not be available. So that's why it is a connectionless, right? So no reliability. You cannot say that, okay, at any point of time you want to find out, oh, how many packets have been sent to this client 1, or how many requests are pending for the client 1. Okay, whether at a client 1 that the message which I have sent, that message have been received or not, all such information is not maintained. right? So that's why it's a connectionless. So I send the message and I receive the message. I send the message, but there is no guarantee that okay, that message might be dropped in between somewhere. Okay, we don't know. We are not checking with the recipient socket that okay, whether you have received or not received. We don't know. If I have received something, I have send the reply back, but whether that reply have been received at the destination or not, that guarantee is not there. If underlying network is a reliable network, then definitely it might have received. But at a transport layer, it is not bothering about that, okay, whether it is received or not, and it cannot confirm that whether it is received or not, right? So this is a connectionless. So now we'll see that this connection oriented demultiplexing, how it happens. So same example we are taking, but now in this case you see that there are three, you can say two clients are there. Client 1 I'll name it, and client 2, and this server is there. Same example I took for the explaining the connectionless demultiplexing. So now in this case you see what is the difference. First difference you might have observed from the figures, or should I go back to this figure? So this is for the connectionless, right? See that one socket is there at the destination, because this I'm say assuming I'm calling this as a destination with respect to these two source. So they are communicating to this host. So that all the communication is going through the same socket to the application. Here you see that there are two processes are communicating from this client, and one process is communicating from this client to this, and you can see the three sockets are there. So this is connection oriented. So in this case, I can keep track of individual communication, like communication between uh, P3 to P4. So P3 is communicating to P4, right? So at a transport layer, what it is sending, so this P3 and P4 communication is basically this socket to this socket communication. Now this socket needs to be how we need to uniquely identify this communication at the server, right? So server should not means it should means keep track of the individual communication like P3 to P4. Similarly, we'll see P5 to P2 and P3 to P6 here. So what I need actually, how that socket will be this transport layer service will be what identifier it should use for that socket. What identifier it should use for the socket. In case of connectionless, the identifier for the socket was destination port number and destination IP address, right? Destination port number and destination IP address identifier is sufficient for the socket. Okay. Here, what I required, how can I uniquely identify a socket here? Because this P3 is communicating to P4, right? Similarly, P2 is communicating to, say, for example, P5, then they should be uniquely identified, both the communication for the, because the connection is between P3 to P4. And this socket I need to unique. What are, so for this socket here, the if I say that this is, so IP address for this machine is same, so IP address will be same for all three socket. Port number will be different, right? So I need 4 tuple information for that to identify uniquely a socket in case of the connection oriented demultiplex, for the achieving the connection oriented demultiplexing. So source IP and the port number. So source IP, let us say right now I'm taking A is a source IP, and port number is, let us say this is 9157, and this is let us say port 80. This process is running at a port 80 P4, right? So the IP address of this machine is B, and the process is running at a port 80, right? So using these four information, A 9157 IP address of source and port number of source, and IP address of B destination and the port of destination. These four information is identifying this socket. Okay, so using this, it can differentiate whether the data has to be, this segment has to be sent to this or to this or to this, right? So the reverse communication will go, okay, source and destination will be swapped in that case. Source IP will become destination IP, destination IP will become source IP. Now the communication between P5 and P3. So for P5 and P3, so P3, let's say P3 also means that because this is a different machine, so 9157 port can be used by this process, right? Because these two machines are different, so it can be same also here also. So this is at 9157. Destination is, so this communication is also coming from the 9157 P3 to P. So at a transport layer, you just look at the communication which is coming from this client is coming from port number 9157. So you can say source port is 9157. And from here also the communication is coming from 9157. So for this also source port is same. And the destination IP address is also same. You can say destination IP address is B and destination port number is 80, right? So which tuple will be different? This port number will be, sorry, this IP address is different. Source IP address will be different in this case. Otherwise, destination IP and destination port number both are same for both. So this cannot distinguish the communication between client 1 and server and the client 2 and the server. So because these three tuples are same. So if I want to uniquely identify, then this four tuple information is required to uniquely identify. So here the IP address of this machine is A and the source IP and source IP for this machine is C. So, and that's why the unique IP address is required for communicating over the internet. Each machine should have a unique IP address, public IP address I'm talking about, external IP address also we call. So this is, so that's why this connection oriented, the TCP socket which we create, that socket will be, we need to, the socket is identified by the four tuples: source IP, source port number, destination IP, destination port number.
So,
yeah.
How are the destination port numbers same? Like by seeing the arrows, shouldn't the port numbers be different? Because
the
from
port number can be, so port number, let us say you see that application, you have a web browsing application. So what is your destination port number in that case? HTTP 80. You also as a client, you will send a request to the BITS Pilani server, destination port will be 80 from your side also. If when I am sending a request to the BITS Pilani web server, then also I have to use the port number 80 only, because there the HTTP server is running.
Sir, actually I was talking about this specific diagram where the arrows are directed towards different sockets. That's why I was
So socket is created, so separate. So see, this socket is how this socket is different from this socket. That is something I'm explaining. This socket is identified with source IP, source port number, destination IP, and destination port number. So now this is the name, or you can say the identification of this socket. Now this socket identification is again with the four tuples. So now you see these four tuples of this and 4 tuples of this are different. That's why these two are two different sockets.
So like different sockets will have different port numbers, right? Or they can have the same port number.
See, this socket is identified with what, when I'm saying identified, so how you are identified? Suppose your name is Rajesh, your brother name is also Rajesh, then it is a problem. So then we use one more identification for that, right? So this, if suppose at here on this machine, if it is receiving a segment and segment with this 4 and this segment with this 4, you can say the 4 information, this 4 type of information will be used to direct the segment to the appropriate process or appropriate socket. Basically, you say forget about process, because process anyway it is connected to the socket. So this process and connected to this socket, this process is connected to this socket, or connected, or you can say bind. So if the 3 processes are running, or you say you consider in this way, suppose a server have a communication with HTTP server is running, web server. One web page you are requesting, maybe same web page I am also requesting. These two connection will be the separate connection will treated at the server. It cannot mix up that, okay, whatever I am requesting, that it can, you may requesting something else, I am maybe requesting, my request is for something different page. So I am getting whatever I am requesting, you are getting whatever you are requesting. Means here the transport layer is differentiating between your request and my request, although they belongs to the same website.
So new socket is made for each application on server and client pair.
Yes, new socket is made for each connection, I should say. And connection here is this process to this process communication, this process to this process communication, this process to this process communication. All 3 communication needs to be uniquely differentiated, means they uniquely identified, so that I can differentiate them. And why I want to differentiate? Because I want to just keep track of that. Okay, fine, because on the top of it we will build some service. We will say, okay, reliability and all these things. So we'll say for that the connection orientation is must. Means this machine should differentiate, okay, the P4 and P3, okay, that's a separate communication is happening. Between P5 and P3, okay, this is a different, although it is P5 and P6 between the two same machine, right? P5 and P6 are communicating to the same client, right? But within that client, P4 is communicating with P3 and P6 is communicating to P2. So these two connections will be needs to be different. Needs to be treated as a different. We cannot mix up that, okay, between P4, P5, P6 and P2, P3. That P2, P6, P2 and P2 segment should not be delivered to P5. So for that purpose, what I need to create a socket, and that socket should be named in such a way that it can be differentiated, uniquely identified with respect to the client and with respect to the process which is running on that client. So that's why how to identify, for that purpose I need to use 4 tuple information to identify, because these 4 tuples cannot be same for 2 processes in that case which are running at this machine. Ultimately this transport layer needs to, without ambiguity, it needs to deliver the message to the appropriate process. So without ambiguity means it needs to identify, right, uniquely. So if it is coming from, so suppose P5, so P5 and P3. So for that's why I gave this example. You can see this machine is communicating, or you say forget about this machine. 2 processes running on this client and 2 processes 5 and 6 are on this server. Now if I want to differentiate these 2 communication uniquely at both sides, So you see this, just to look at 4 tuple information. So source IP for this is IP of, so this is C, IP of this, right? Source IP for this P3 is also same. Okay, port numbers are, because on the so here at the client side that the port number is different, right? So the port number is 9157 for this and 5775 for this. I think your confusion is that, okay, because here I am saying that it's a port 80 is there actually. Here this process is also on port 80, this process is also on port 80, this process is also on port 80. So this is because well-known applications use the like FTP or STTP, right? SMTP. These applications run, this application run on a well-known port, that is the port number which are starting from 0 to 123. They 1023. They are called as they are reserved port basically for some well-known applications, reserve ports. So out of these, 80 is also one of them. 21 and 20 for FTP it is used, and 25 is used for SMTP, right? So that is so this, so internally means, okay, that means I need to implement that server as a either multi-threaded server, right? So I will show the example next. So this is the case. Here you have one process is there, and same communication. It is communicating. 3 communications are happening. P3. So here only one process is there, but this is a you can say threaded server. Multiple threads are there. So in this case, 3 threads are there, right? So the destination port number is 80 only, and so for this socket the 4 tuple information is different, and this socket the 4 tuple information is different. This socket 4 tuple information is different. At least one of the tuple will be different. And if it is not different, then I will not be able to divert that, okay, whether the segment will go belongs to this communication or segment belong to this communication or segment belong to this communication, because these 3 communication I am uniquely identifying what requests have been sent, response has come, then so to uniquely identify I need to address or need to give name to identification to these segments using these 4 tuples. So multi-threaded server, even a single process is running, but multiple threads are there. So one thread is associated with this socket, another thread is associated with this socket, and this thread is associated with this socket. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, one small question. So what if sockets for P2 and P3 had the same port number?
P2 and P3 cannot be the same port number.
Okay, sir. Okay.
P2, P3 cannot be in same port number. P3 of this and P3 of this client, they can be same.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
But here P2 and P3 cannot be on same port number, because you see that why it cannot be there, because then it will create a confusion. Because then you see that the communication, then how it will, because it is coming from, so from this socket the information is coming from, let us say, port 80, and the server IP is B, and for this socket also the communication is coming from port 80 and server IP is B. And now you say that, okay sir, port number for P2 P3 is also same. So if this port number is same, because from the remote side the port and IP address is same. Now at here also IP address anyway it is same. I am assuming that, okay, means same this application one interface IP address is there. So IP address will be same, and the port number also you are saying same. Then all 4 tuples will be same. Then how the transport layer will distinguish that, okay, oh, this segment should go to this side or this side? It will not able to distinguish. That means the port number cannot be same here, because at least that one tuple should be there that can distinguish the so a segment can be uniquely identified and can be diverted to the appropriate process. Otherwise, it will be a confusion.
Okay, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, but you were told that we can open more than one socket for a single port.
So more than one socket, no, more than one socket for single process, right?
For single port number. For a let's say for port 80, we can open more than one socket.
Actually, how that, so in that's a one way of doing is this one, this threaded, you have this one process and multiple threads are there, right? So that's a unique identification, because within one process you may have a multiple threads, and each thread is associated with a one port, one socket. So socket creation is a one thing, right? And socket, how are you identifying the socket? Socket can be identified with let's say so connectionless socket is identified with the destination IP address and the destination port number, because that information is sufficient to uniquely distinguish between the segments which are arriving at the destination. For connection oriented, it requires four tuple information: source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port. So okay, so can you repeat your question? Means what exactly your question was?
Sir, like I am asking, if in this multi-threaded server, let's say the server is opening two sockets at port 80 only. So how will they be distinguished?
So two socket at a port 80. So you see that. So this is all these sockets. In this case, all three for these sockets, the port is 80 only.
Okay, sir.
So this socket is how this socket is now. This socket is identified by the four tuple information.
Then from problem
Okay, sir.
2, we had discussed.
Yes, please.
Fine. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Somebody else is asking question. Yes, please go ahead. Who are asking? Who are talking?
Sir, in the previous slide, can you go back?
Which slide? Slide number 10, 11?
Maybe 12, sir. Maybe.
12. Yeah, this is 12.
Okay. Sir, I mean, it's not displayed for me. Okay. Anyway, you said that a socket is identified by a 4-element tuple. Isn't it that a communication between two sockets is identified by four-element tuple, or a particular socket only?
No. So I am talking, when I say that a socket is identified with a 4 tuple, then I am talking with respect to a particular host. So
yes, sir. I mean,
so means when I say 4 tuple, so 4 tuple means out of 2 tuples will belongs to this machine where that socket is there, where that actually that socket is created, and other 2 tuples are the remote, you can say remote host information, source, their IP address and the port number.
Okay, sir. Fine, sir.
So you see, you understand in this way. Suppose 2 houses are there. Within each house, you have 4 members are there. Now, member 1 of this house is talking to member 1 of this house, right? I want that, okay, that communication should be uniquely identified, means that communication should go between these two only. Other members should not know. Then there is a second member from one house, and that is communicating to second member of another house, that in first house. So these two communications are parallelly going on. So same thing is here. P3 and P4 here, if it is visible to you, P3 and P4 is so this communication is happening through the sockets. So at a socket level, we need to see that. So the socket level, I say that, okay, total how many pairs of socket in this case? 3 pairs of sockets are there. and these three pairs of socket I need to uniquely identify. Then only I can say that okay, these three communications are going separately without interfering each other.
Clear, sir. Thanks. Sir, and like on a broad view, compared to the connection layers, in connection, we're adding source details also in order to like make it more reliable and to store some stats about it.
Correct. Your understanding is perfect. So because in the connectionless we say okay, that's it is identified with the socket is identified with the source destination port number and destination IP address. In a connection oriented we added a source information also, so that we can do some kind of a, so it is like that means individual communication can be tracked if it is required. Because connection oriented service we say that okay, we will put some reliability also, maybe individual or the individual communication we can say that okay, how many packets are transferred, if some packet is not transferred then that also can be keep track. All such things we will later add on to that. That's why we are going for the connection oriented. So you can see that if I just compare connection oriented and the connection less, so connection oriented is a slightly that there's overhead associated with that, because the socket itself is a heavy. It needs four tuples to uniquely identify, as compared to the connection less. Connection less is just 2 tuple information is sufficient to. So that is less, you can say, information required as compared to the connection oriented. So like, and the one confusion I think that is coming means I just maybe take 1 minute to clarify that. Means the at a HTTP server you say okay, destination is so this example, in this example you can see 80 port is their destination, right? So now on 80 port you have basically, you say the 3 sockets are associated with that, right, on a port 80 on this machine. So now how it is actually this you can say multiple client, how it's supported by the server. If you remember in the previous class I have seen that okay, there is always a welcome socket is there, and that welcome socket, so your request is initially going to the port 1, that port 80, and then internally it may assign a different port and a new socket is created, that is after accepting that connection a new socket is created. So you can understand this in that way. So basically here, yeah, so so this client is also sending the request to the port 80, this the second client is also sending request to the port 80, and then that working as a kind of a welcome socket, and then for this connection a separate socket will be created at a server side, and then the process will communicate, so that socket communication will be used for the client 1 communication. And when this client are communicating on the port 80, then welcome socket will receive that communication, then when create another socket, and the socket which is newly created socket, that socket is communicating to the socket at this client, right? So that's why you can see here the 3 pairs of sockets are there. So initially so that is internal, means how the application is implemented. But from the socket perspective, we need to just look at okay, socket to socket communication in a connection oriented, then my socket should be require 4 tuple information to so that it can redirect the segments in a to the appropriate socket. The transport layer can redirect the segment to the appropriate socket.